Hello and welcome to BikeWale, and today we'll tell you which is the better Royal Enfield to buy. In the red corner, we've got the Classic 350, the new one. Now, the Classic is a legendary name, it's aspirational, and it's made Royal Enfield what it is today. And then in the blue corner, we've got the Upstart, which is the Meteor. It brings in a different riding experience from Royal Enfields that we've been used to in the past. Now, if you're wondering why we've decided to compare these two, well, two reasons. One, we have both these motorcycles on a long term and we see them parked side by side every day, and we think, which one would be a better buy? And since we had them, we thought, why not do this story? And second, more important reason is that there would be a set of buyers, let's say the Classic buyers, existing Classic buyers who are looking to upgrade. So should they go for the Classic, or should they actually taste something new or experience something new with the Meteor? Plus, you've got a whole set of buyers coming from 125cc motorcycles, 150cc motorcycles, and they want to get into the Royal Enfield, the universe, because it's supposed to be larger than life, and you've got cruising as part of their DNA, adventure as part of their DNA, and they want to experience that. So if they're doing that, should they go for the established, the aspirational Classic, or should they try something new? And that's what we're going to tell you, and we're going to do that in three ways. We're going to tell you which is the better motorcycle when it comes to commuting. We will tell you which is the better motorcycle when it comes to touring or going on the highway, and of course we'll tell you which is the better motorcycle if you have a pillion and you want to go out with your pillion. But before we get stuck in, let's quickly give you the basics about the two motorcycles here. Both the Meteor and the Classic are based on Royal Enfield's new J platform, and that means both the motorcycles get the exact same engine and gearbox. The engine is a near 350cc single-cylinder air/oil cooled unit that's made it to a 5-speed gearbox. The engine is smooth, and there's a likable baritone and refinement to the exhaust note of both motorcycles. The output figures of the engine are exactly the same on the Classic and the Meteor, which at around 20 bhp of power and 27 Nm of peak torque aren't exactly earth or segment shattering, but in terms of function and usability, these do suffice. Between the two though, the Meteor clearly feels quicker, more alive, especially when you open the throttle hard. The 5-speed gearbox in the meantime is slick, precise and light to use on both bikes. In fact, one can go both up and down the gearbox without the clutch by just barely managing to match the revs. If you are used to old Royal Enfield boxes, well, you'll love this one. Now, even in terms of suspension and chassis and the hard points, the two bikes use the same hardware. There's a hint of difference in tuning, yes, but the bigger difference is in terms of weight and wheel sizes. The Classic is the heavier of the two, and it also uses a 19-inch front and an 18-inch rear wheel, compared to the 1917 front to rear setup on the Meteor. The Meteor also runs a Meteor 140 section rear tire compared to the 120 on the Classic. Now, how do these changes make a big difference in the real world? Well, time to find out. When it comes to commuting, a few things are a must. Things like ease of parking, good slow speed agility, unrestricted paddling in traffic, good visibility via the rear view mirrors, comfy seats, good brakes, and of course, a decent fuel efficiency, if not great. So let's talk about parking first, and let's start with the Classic 350. Now, this is a heavier motorcycle than the Meteor. It also carries its weight higher up than the Meteor, and that means moving it around is not as easy, let's say, compared to the Meteor. So whether you're trying to find a decent parking, in your parking lot, or like we're moving the bikes around today to get a good frame, this is definitely more difficult to do. And it's the same when you try and put the motorcycles on the stand. This requires a little more effort than the Meteor. The Meteor is also the easier bike to move around when you're seated on it. So whether you're stuck in traffic and you want to avoid something right in front, so you need to pedal back and then avoid and go ahead, or if you just want to move it around in the parking, it's a lot easier to do than the Classic, because A, you're sitting lower, so you've got more a firmer footing on the ground. You've got more leverage because of the bend here. And then the foot pegs, they're pretty far forward, so they don't end up hitting your shin, which isn't the case with the Classic. Now when it comes to seating ergos, it's a mixed bag, and we'll tell you how and why. We'll start with the Classic. It is, even though it's got a much higher seat height compared to the Meteor, it's still pretty easy to get on board. And it's a more street focused riding triangle. You've got a handlebar that you have to reach for a little. You sit on the bike, then in it, which is the case with the Meteor. And the foot peg positioning is more neutral than slightly forward set, again, which is there in the Meteor. So it makes for, you could say, a more involving riding position, because you're on the bars, and it feels like it's more direct in a sense. This is a riding position that Neil prefers. He's our young road tester. I prefer the Meteor's riding position, which is slightly laid back. Maybe it's the sign of age, but yeah, that's essentially the difference. So that's something that you will need to decide for yourself as to which one you prefer. Now we've told you about the seating ergos and thought it's time to tell you a little more about the seat themselves. As you can tell by the two rider seats that this is more carved out, gives you a lower seat height. It also makes for that cruiser sort of seating stance. This one's flatter, more like a street bike should be. So when you sit on them, this is softer and it immediately feels comfortable, whether you're doing short runs or going out on the highways. First time you sit on it, this definitely feels comfortable. Over time, somehow this still remains more comfortable than this. I don't know why that is, because this is slightly firmer and it should feel better, but it doesn't. The one on the Meteor just feels better whether you're riding short distances in the city or you're riding long distance on the highway. When it comes to the pillion seat, we prefer this one because there is more space here. Here the backrest just gets in the way, it touches you constantly, and the Meteor does have vibrations, especially when you're doing about 90-100, and those vibrations then start, they get you to itch, and it's not a comfortable experience. So if you want to go out with a pillion, I think the Classic, given its seat, the size and the firmness, is a better option. So when it comes down to riding, which is the better motorcycle in the city? The Meteor. I know how surprising it might sound, because this is a cruiser, this is a street motorcycle, but the Meteor just seems to work better than the Classic when you're battling city traffic, when you're riding slowly, when you want to filter through traffic quickly. The Meteor works better. It's got wider handlebars, so you've got more leverage. It also feels lighter. This one feels heavy to steer. You got to work this motorcycle, not so the Meteor. Otherwise, when it comes to other controls, clutch pull, the effort, they're identical. Gear shift quality, identical. Brakes, it's a little, I'm not really sure because this is slightly older now, but we'd say the brakes are at par. But if we were to pick, we'd say that this seems to work slightly better at the moment. But it could be because this is slightly older. This has done almost 10,000 kilometers with us. This is almost brand new. But yeah, so when it comes to city, we'd certainly go for the Meteor because it's just easier on your senses. It's more comfortable, like we said, and the better motorcycle to buy, honestly, if you want to commute on, than the Classic. I know how it sounds, how it looks, but that's the truth. Now when it comes to riding long distance, parking isn't as important as, say, a good cruising speed. Seating ergos and a comfy seat and good brakes and a decent fuel efficiency still remain important. But now, wind buffeting or wind protection and vibrations and ride quality become even more important than they were in the city. Not to mention, ability to haul a pillion and some luggage. Now we've told you what matters when you move to the highway. Different things, some things similar to the city, other things, they become more important. So we're going to do step by step and take each of those aspects and tell you which of these two motorcycles does that particular bit better. So when you're on the highway, you want comfortable seating, you want comfortable seats. The Meteor is the better motorcycle for that. Now these motorcycles, this platform feels most comfortable cruising at about 80-90, and of course you can go faster, but honestly that's where the sweet spot is. And when it comes to that, again, the Meteor has less vibes at that speed. It has better wind protection. So again, the Meteor makes more of a highway friendly motorcycle than the Classic. Then of course there's the ride quality. Again, the Meteor is slightly plusher compared to the slightly stiffer Classic, and that makes, especially when you're hitting road joints, you're hitting bumps that you can't see, it will nurse your back better than the Classic. So again, the Meteor makes more sense. Fuel efficiency wise, nothing much to choose from between the two. Braking wise, again, nothing much to choose. When it comes to handling, especially the longer corners, etc., ground clearance wise, or how you tip in, how they feel, again, the Meteor is the better motorcycle here. And then of course when you're going out on the highway, you're gonna have punctures, possibly. Again, I've always been a fan of alloy wheels, and this one gets it. You can have the Classic with alloy wheels, but not in this top spec version. And so this, again, all you have to do is carry a puncture repair kit and you'll be there. There you gotta find somebody, haul somebody down, take the wheel out, etc. A lot of effort. So clearly, as you can tell, the Meteor, it's a cruiser and it fits the highway bill really well too. The Meteor is also the better handling motorcycle in our book. It's more eager to lean into bends, it's more fluid when it comes to quick direction changes, and because it offers more feel and it reacts just the way you want it to, it's easier to push the Meteor harder around corners than the Classic, even on a wet road. The Classic isn't bad, but it's not a motorcycle you look forward to taking up a switchback. Yes, if a twisty road does make an appearance en route, it will happily do the left to right and right to left dance, but it's more like a formal dance than a happy one. So answering the question we asked right at the start of the film, which is the better Royal Enfield? And that is the Meteor. Okay, maybe you want a little more explanation about that than just that. So we said there'd be two kind of buyers. One who are moving from 125cc, 150cc motorcycles to a Royal Enfield because, you know, they see the brand as aspirational and they want something that has more road presence, that is better at cruising, and a larger or a big motorcycle feel. And for all those people, the Meteor is a better fit because the Meteor gives you the experience of what a new age Royal Enfield today is like. It is very close or similar to the experiences that people have had in their 125 and 150cc sort of motorcycles. So it's not the traditional Royal Enfield, it's not difficult to ride, it's just got all of that right with that slight or let's say ingredients that make Royal Enfield. But if you're upgrading from the Classic, then you might look down upon the Meteor because it doesn't deliver the same sort of hardness, you would say, or that sort of rawness that people have gotten used to in the Classic. Now this Classic of course is way better than the Classic 350 of yore, but compared to the Meteor, this is slightly rougher or not as smooth around the edges as the Meteor, and therefore if you've loved the Classic, then you should still stick with the Classic and leave the Meteor to the younger, newer Royal Enfield audience.